I just want to start off by saying that Arc Raiders is such an easy game to talk about because there's so much good in this game and very little wrong. And all the stuff that is wrong with the game, they're either fixing as we speak or have already fixed, such as bugs or server issues and things like that. But yeah, essentially this video is just going to be kind of like a state of the game 2 weeks after launch, just to see if it held up. I mean, I know the player base has held up, so many people are still playing Arc Raiders, although I remember before the game released, a lot of people thought that it was going to die after a week, so I'm glad that it didn't, and it's still going strong. But yeah, I mean, I'll just get right into it. The core gameplay loop at heart for Arc Raiders is just an extraction shooter, but it does manage to make it feel unique and different and keep it fresh. Two main things I can think of that helps achieve this is, for example, when you find like a rare item when looting, it makes like a sound and it flashes and it's like, oh shit, okay, that's a good item. Or another thing is when you're uncovering loot, it's very similar to Arkhov, for example, but where it branches off and makes it feel different is the skill tree. So for example, there's a skill where you can search containers faster, and also you can uncover like 2 items at once, and the more you play, the more efficient you become at like looting these different items or containers. So it's not always just the same, you know, if you see 2 items there, it's not always going to be the same time that you have to wait. And stuff like this doesn't really, you know, when I'm saying it out loud, seem that relevant, but it's just what has stuck out to me the most while I've been playing it. And yeah, I'm glad there's at least some kind of way to make it feel different from other extraction shooters. But talking about the game feeling different, I want to talk about the actual gameplay itself. So this includes combat, movement, the Arc enemies themselves. All of it, when you put it together, is just perfect. It's very close to like a perfect experience for a game that I wanted. Like, you know, like I was looking for a game that kind of filled this gray area for the extraction shooter genre for me, and Arc Raiders has literally achieved just that. But I'll break it down a little bit. I'll start with the actual gunplay itself. Every single gun in the game feels different. There's no 2 guns that you fire and you think, huh, this is kind of like, you know, the other gun. For example, and I'm gonna butcher the names here, but 2 guns that are very similar but also very different is the Beretta and also the Veneta, I think is how you say them. One's a blue pistol, one's a green pistol, and they're very similar in the way that, well, they're pistols. But for example, the blue pistol, the Veneta, shoots a lot slower but does a lot more damage. And if you look closely, it's actually a double-barreled pistol. It's interesting. It shoots 2 bullets at once. Whereas the Beretta isn't a double-barreled pistol. It's just simply a pistol, but has a lot higher fire rate. Therefore, I don't know, if you got good aim and you're closer, because it only takes light ammo, it can do more damage. But that's why it's a great example. The blue pistol is better at range because it uses medium rounds, whereas the Beretta is not so great at range because it uses light ammo. But it doesn't really stop there either. Let's say you wanted to use the Veneta, but you wanted it to feel more like the Beretta. Well, you can just upgrade the Veneta. You know, it will cost you some resources, but it upgrades the fire rate, for example. And now you've got a gun that still feels different, still feels hard hitting, but is more resemblant to, yeah, I don't know, I guess it's little brother. I don't know. They're kind of like very similar weapons. Yeah, I feel like I'm rambling a bit, but you can understand what I'm trying to say. Also, attachments for guns make so much difference. I mean, not all of them. There's some attachments that, I mean, I was testing out like ADS speed. I couldn't really feel a difference, but one, for example, was the extended barrel and the bullet velocity, meaning that you don't have to lead your shots as much anymore. And also just the fact that it lets you put most attachments on most guns if it would be able to fit, but it doesn't mean that every attachment is good for any gun. You need to read it, you need to think, huh, well, maybe I don't need an extended barrel on the LMG, maybe I'll save that for like the Renegade, for example. And that's what makes the guns in Arc Raiders just feel so unique, and every single gun is different, and I love it. The Arc enemies themselves, so the AI that's in the game, they are interesting. They're very cool, they're very scary, especially when you first start playing, but after a while you learn how to properly avoid them, or at least effectively take them out, you know? So taking out the back propellers on a Hornet, or shooting the middle of a Wasp, because if you shoot the propellers on a Wasp, it does like loop-to-loops in the air and you can't hit it, and then it shoots you still, and it's just ugh. But then you go on to the bigger things like Leapers, Bastions, Rocketeers, and you have to take your time when planning how to, you know, kill one. I mean, not all the time. Sometimes you're forced into a situation where you need to kill a Bastion or a Leaper to get out of a situation. But most of the time, when you're killing these bigger arc, it's because you've planned to do it. You've brought an item with you, like a Hullcracker to kill it, or Wolfpack grenades to kill a Rocketeer. It's essentially always a piece of equipment for the job in this game, and I think it's very well designed in that way. If you want to kill something big, you bring something that can take down something big. You know, it's not something you would normally bring with you going into a run. Also, I just want to point out these arc can just catch you off guard so badly. If you're not paying attention, you are just, you know, running in a straight line, not looking at your monitor, and you run into a Bastion and there's no cover, you might as well just stand still. You're dead. You're not escaping it. I've done it myself. Yeah, it's not good. Also, just knowing what to prioritize when fighting certain arc. Like, for example, the Bombardier. It has 2 spotters, and if they spot you, it tells the Bombardier where to launch its rockets. So, instead of running away, I mean, you should, you know, keep moving so you don't get hit, but also, you should prioritize shooting the spotters, because the longer you don't, then the longer the Bombardier knows where you are, the more chance you are of getting hit. But yeah, finally, for gameplay, the main thing I can think of is the movement. The movement in Arc Raiders is summarized into one word. It's probably just satisfying. I love the animations when you're running and you're like looking behind you, for example. Your character will look over their shoulder, but then the longer you look, they'll start to run backwards. Or just the animation when you start out a sprint, like the little, I don't know what to call it, like a leap, I guess, or like a little skip in their step. It's amazing. But also, I do have to say, sliding down a massive slope or a massive set of stairs, oh, it's amazing. Just the sound it makes as well when you're sliding downstairs is so satisfying. But yeah, there's literally, I can't think of anything that's wrong with the movement. And the only complaint I would really have with the gameplay side of things is the game being third person. That's because holding like a corner in a third person game is just, it's just lethal, because you can see someone else before they can see you, but that is just kind of how it is, you know? It's not unfair, I guess, because you can do the same thing to them, and it's not a bad thing, it's a design choice. So yeah, that's more just a personal problem that I have with the game, although it's not a problem anymore. I love that it's third person. I wouldn't want it any other way. But yeah, I can't talk about Arc Raiders without talking about the atmosphere of the game. I think it hit me the most when I was first loading into a night raid, and everything is so quiet until you hear, you know, a Bastion aggro someone in the distance, and you hear a snitch, you know, call in his goons to go and kill someone. The whole time you're in a run, it is just one big bundle of chaos, and the game just does so well in capturing it, you know? Whether there's a Leaper that, you know, when the light on a Leaper goes orange, it doesn't see you, but it knows you're there. And like, it's just so scary sometimes. The more you play it, obviously, the more tolerant you become to this, and it doesn't seem as, you know, scary or atmospheric anymore. But even like the music, when you hit the last 5 minutes, I don't know if many people have. I guess a lot of people have done by this point. But if you're in a raid for the last 5 minutes, you know, some music starts playing and it's intense. And also, the longer you're in a run, the more arc that spawns. So it just gives you this very tense atmosphere of like, oh shit, I need to get to the extraction. Yeah, and all the sounds around it, all the art that you're interacting with, or you can see just in general, it just makes the whole experience feel so much more intense and thrilling, and it's great. I love it. One of the main parts of this game that makes me love it so much is the player interaction. And I will admit, since the game has been out, it's been about 2 weeks, and already people now kind of just shoot on sight or backstab you. But I remember in the first week of the game, at least, or just under that, there was a lot of people just, you know, being friendly, and you would team up with some random guy and you would go and kill some arc together, go loot an area together. And I can't think of any other game where that really happens. That level of co-op and community, just based off, you know, using either your mic or just an in-game voice line, you know, the don't shoot one or the Hello Raider one. Personally, I've never played a game that has that level of community, and I just love it so much. Talking about like the community, it's kind of on the same thing, but what I love about this game, even though I said after a while the game just becomes, it just becomes a fucking sweat fest of everyone wanting to kill everyone just because they saw you walking. They won't try and be friendly, they won't just leave you alone, which is fine. I want to point out it's a PvP game, I understand it, I'm just saying. But another thing that comes with this is the community events, and the main one we've had so far is the Matriarch being added into the game. I remember when the Matriarch first came out, it was bugged. It didn't spawn in. I was like on the first map that it spawned in on, I think. Maybe not, one of the first. And it was on Bluegate, and me and a group of about, it must have been at least 6 or 7 other people were just walking around the map, but the Matriarch didn't spawn in, so we didn't know what we were looking for. And even though we didn't end up finding it because it was bugged, we still had like such a fun time just traversing the map together. And when eventually the Matriarch did spawn in for me, in a different game, like maybe a couple hours later that same day, the whole lobby was just shooting it. No matter what they had, they put their all into it. Any grenades, they would, kill wasps, throw the wasp driver at it, hornet drivers, everything. And we ended up killing it. And there was so many people in game chat just, yelling, celebrating. And once again, I've never had a game with quite so much community and just cooperative like gameplay in a game where your incentive is to kill someone to get their stuff to profit, But yeah, the game is just designed in a way where if something big and scary gets added, the community just huddles together whenever you're in a game and you'll just work together to take it down. And I love it. Now I want to talk not about the community or the game itself, but the company. So Embark Studios, they made a game called The Finals, and I remember when that game came out, I adored it, I loved it, it was so fun, especially like before it fully released. And then they changed like the movement, so people got angry at them. I don't know if they ever changed it back. But overall, The Finals was such a fun game as well. But that's the only other time I ever really heard about Embark. I know that they were developing Arc Raiders for a while. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I knew that. I didn't. It wasn't really on my radar till I played the last playtest. But overall, I just want to, make a point. Embark has been very, very good with almost everything, fixing bugs, patches, just like cheat ways to get into like keycard rooms, and also responding to player tickets. I know there's been cheaters in the game, so they are working as hard as they can, I guess, to not only ban the players that got killed by, a cheater, but also compensate the people who lost stuff to the cheater. It's happened to me twice now. I don't know. If I can find a screenshot, I'll put it somewhere, but it's happened to me twice now where I didn't even realize I was against the cheater or in the same lobby as a cheater or anything like that. But it just, they return my items, and the little message at the top says it was like unfair play, which I think is great. I don't see any other games doing that, Like if you get killed by a cheater in like any other game, most other games will tell you if your report was successful, like, oh, thanks for your report, this person got banned. But then they just kind of, like, fuck you, you don't get any compensation for it. And I think that's because a lot of other studios see like a game as being just a game, which it is. I'm not saying, Arc Raiders is life. I'm just saying Embark Studios knows that, people, they have limited time to play, some people, and putting time in to get items to then lose them to a cheater is not just something you say, thanks for your report, but instead, they're compensating players, which is just great, and I love it. Also, another thing that Embark, I don't know, they kind of just submitted to the community in this part. I don't know how I feel about it. Definitely it's a good thing, but they made cosmetics a lot cheaper. Or I don't know if they made it a lot cheaper. I don't know what the actual markup was, or I guess markdown. But I just know they made cosmetics cheaper and refunded people the difference to what they did pay for, which is a good thing. A lot of people were saying they were too expensive. I didn't think it was that bad, but I do understand the concern for microtransactions, especially when you have to pay for the game. You don't want to then have to pay more just to wear a skin that you like, for example. But there's two things they did about this, kind of. One, I already just said, they made paid currency cheaper, and all the bundles also cheaper. But not only that, they've had an event so far when opening up the new map Stella Montis, where you could earn, and you still can earn XP to get a free skin. They have the Raider deck, which is free. Again, it's basically, let's be honest, the equivalent of a battle pass. And they're gonna have, you know, when the deck resets and there's a new one, it's gonna be free again. And then the option to have a premium currency one, which is just cosmetic. But it's like, Embark isn't trying to, you know, make the game pay to win in any way. This is my point with the decks, because the decks we have now have some items in them which could be considered pay to win in the future if you had to pay for the deck just to get the item. But yeah, I don't know, I think it's fairly priced now. I think it was fairly priced before because, you know, people argue, you buy the game, why should you have to spend more? It's essentially just to keep the game alive, you know? They make their money from when the game launches, and then to keep supporting the game, that's where microtransactions help. So, although I say that, they probably made a lot of money from Arc Raiders. But yeah, overall, for Embark Studios, what I can say is just they listen to the community, and that's a good thing. It's a great thing, and I can see them continuing to do that whenever there's an issue or anything in that category. They, like, Embark Studios, you know, you can kind of just trust them so far to listen to what people are saying and act on that as well. But yeah, that's about it. That is my opinion on Arc Raiders, the kind of state of it 2 weeks later. I really am just addicted to this game. I've played it every day since it released for way more time than I should. I've really just enjoyed every minute of it, and I think I needed this, you know, like an extraction shooter, a game that's just fresh. You know, it's a genre that is heavily criticized, I'd say, especially with Tarkov. That's a very hit or miss game. But even games like Dark and Darker, I tried, I did like it, but then they hide the fact that you have to pay for the game. It's like, why not? Why not just tell me that from the beginning? Now I'm not going to buy it. Or even a game called Breakout, I think it was called. It's discontinued now, but like, there's so many extraction shooters or just extraction games in general that have failed, and I'm glad that Arc Raiders hit the nail on the head, and it is a good overall game, and it's definitely worth playing if you haven't already. But yeah, other than that, thank you for watching, and goodbye.